Good evening. You're listening live to the Extreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob, broadcasting to you from Seoul, South Korea. I am in the Extreme Studios, virtually speaking, from the Great Midwest. I have RDB
Mhm.
joining me tonight. I am in the enemy neighborhood or whatever of some thugs, some cybercrime shit going on. So I decided to call Don Lee and the rest of his Roundup team for the fourth movie in that franchise to review tonight with RDB. And RDB, when I watched this movie the other day, I couldn't help but think, I have no idea how big of a budget relative to what most of the big AAA movies get made over there with someone like a Don Lee, who's obviously very successful, very
Yeah.
well known. But I thought this is a pretty standard by numbers sort of movie, but I think it's a movie that knows what it is and they give you what you want and all that. So nothing bad with it, nothing really exotic about it. But I kind of liked it. I like seeing stuff being shot in the Philippines over there, overseas in different locations, everything here too. Standard fare, and I'm glad we finally have cops beating the shit out of people. And yeah, we get fight scenes, everything's
Right.
there too, but more of the same, and not necessarily a bad thing. What was your take on this film?
Well, this is a number 4. So we watched the first 3. I thought we reviewed maybe
Believe we did.
I think we reviewed all 3 of them. Yeah, I know that there's Roundup, and then there was well, I guess with this being the fourth one.
Roundup 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah,
Roundup 3,
Roundup 3
Revenge.
is Roundup 3 Revenge, and I gotta say the one thing about these movies is that you kind of know what you're going in for. You're gonna get a guy who basically a detective, Monduck, where aka Don Lee is a detective. It kind of cuts corners a little bit, but he's an honest guy. He's big and imposing. He's gonna do some boxing moves. He's gonna jab you from the left and the right, and punch you, and basically knock you down or send you flying down a corridor, and he doesn't, he's one of those. He's also, but that was what you're saying. He's also very polite about it. Guy pulls a knife. He's like, "Oh, that's not very nice. You can hurt someone with that." I love the subtle humor they've kept through the first movie, going through this. That being said, a lot of these movies are pretty much going to be the same. No matter what, it's a change of a plot. The bad guys. Here's the thing I like about this. The bad guys are always bad guys. There's always, and there's always the ones who think they're bad guys, and they're the ones that get knocked off by the bad guy.
Yep.
And you always get the fight at the end. So it's now some say, well, that's kind of like cliche and kind of boring. What's different? Why move away from what works? This is what we like him. We got him basically going after the smug bad guy, his stone cold killer. He's already ruthlessly stabbed somebody or shot them. We get that in here. Obviously, with a bad guy after going after a rival casino, taking it down. The guy pulls a gun on him. The bad guy basically stabs him in the shoulder, grabs the guy's gun, and he's like, "Go kill me in the mouth!" And he shoots him, and he just walks away.
It was pretty good. I mean, as a bad guy, like, you could believe him, right?
Literally, this was like an evil Jet Li without a lot of the clarity stuff. But that's the one thing you're gonna get through this movie is you're gonna see a lot of the same stuff, and I liked it. And this is I normally don't say this about like threequels and fourth movies. A lot of times the movies go down in quality and they stop caring. This was produced by Don Lee. Don Lee shows how much he actually cares about this. Actually, wanted to get this going. It is pretty much like an '80s Hong Kong, like or a little bit action movie. I've noticed that late '80s, early '90s, the way they're going at it.
Yeah, it doesn't have kind of like a more laid back, almost stylish kind of component to it that we would see with the Hong Kong. I mean, it's got its own kind of thing too. But the thing about Don Lee's presence, the fact that he doesn't smile, and he's a very broad individual.
Yeah.
He's barrel chested, as it were, right? Obviously the Asian population, just as a group itself, is not the biggest group, especially martial artists, and it doesn't really matter. The main guy who gets established early on with the killing the guy that escaped and all that, to kind of setting up who he is. And to your point, the other bad guy that the main bad guy whacks before him and Don Lee get it on. I thought the movie, like you said, it does what it does well, and I just think the tone that you have in these Don Lee movies is something that's missing in a lot of action movies, which I like, with the stupid little dumb sayings and all that. At some point, that just gets tired, and it doesn't become funny anymore. Yes, there was a little bit of light humor in here. I think probably the only slip up for me is early on when they have the very creative, I say, rooftop office fight when they're at the very beginning establishing where all the cell phones are at, and the whole nexus that's that they undercover. It's just The rubber knives were very terrifying there when they were swinging them around and all that too. It's hard to take my eyes off of that. I didn't know which one was going to slice somebody up. But no, it's a good movie because honestly,
I didn't notice any of the rubber knives, bro.
oh, it was so blatant. It's like instead of jumping off the building and landing, it's like somebody throwing the dummy body off that you can tell is the dummy body. That's what it looked like to me.
Oh,
that's just a minor quibble.
It looked realistic to me. I was too busy first on the guy almost getting stabbed. You know, more and their expression on their face, the actors, it was believable. It wasn't just, oh, don't stab me. Oh,
but they do frame the action where, again, it's not the quick cutting, zooming stuff to hide and mask everything like you get in a lot of American action films and CGI. It's there's a lot of stunts. And it's very clear. And again, we get like a big knife fight. Then we get a little bit of guns, but not a lot. We get a fist fight. We get like another hallway one. I'm not going to say we have a lot of parkour in here because we just generally don't get that. But
no,
by and large,
those are Tom Cruise movies.
Exactly. So to me, I mean, like you said it perfect. You know what you're getting when you're getting this kind of movie, and with Don Lee now producing, or at least he maybe produced some of the others, has hand in. It's probably going to have some wheels. And I'd be shocked if there's not a couple more of these films in the franchise.
Yeah, the bad guy is played by Dong-seok or Ma Dong-seok. I'm not sure what else he's been in, but his stone cold presence in the movie you see right above, the guy is a complete psychopath. Basically, the run of the mill of the story is that there's an online gambling casino stuff, and one guy wants basically not wipe out all the competition, so he gets to hire these thugs, and he promises them more money, but this guy on top of here wants wants more money, and he's kind of got a sick sense of humor a little bit, kind of like, it's in line with the previous movies. The main bad guy is no nonsense, which works for this, and it really makes him stand out, to making him very creepy, and especially when someone says they're gonna do something, and pretty much he just stabs them, kills them. And just it's a very stone cold killer vibe, which I miss from a lot of movies.
And one of the things that honestly, the one positive thing about what I would call a generic plot that I really did appreciate, and it's just, I think, coincident timing, because this movie came out in 24, I think.
2024.
It's 2026 right now, live as we're recording this. But I found the parallels of what was going on today interesting, because what I liked about it was what's stopping them from getting too deep into this nexus is that, okay, they would kidnap certain people and they would force them to write code.
Yeah, in a room.
And then they'd have the code themselves, and then they'd whack him and kill him. And recently, with all the supposed AI boom in terms of capital expenditure that businesses are putting into it, you don't have any return on that capital yet, so some people think it's a fraud. And so you see like Google right now, or Amazon, firing a bunch of people after they've written a bunch of code, and so they're calling it like the code apocalypse and all these terms, because right now that's currently going on, that they're having people hire it, and then it becomes AI, then they fire everybody, then they just manage the AI.
Why would you keep around people when you're the only one who knows the code? It makes it valuable, exactly. Makes sense with online gambling stuff thing. Apparently, this movie is based off a 2018 kind of realistic story.
Really happened, right?
Yeah. Where they had a guy was running online gambling. They went in. They arrested at the end of like over 100 men, including the president. So they added a little fantasy to it a little bit, and made it more a little brutal. Because what's more better than having a movie with guns or a movie with people with knives and machetes?
Knives and machetes all the way.
Always, because you get more close quarter combat. And them being cops, they normally don't use guns in this at all. The cops, which I like about this.
It also makes it feel like they don't have the edge, even though they're quote unquote the good guys and have the system behind them and all that, right?
Yeah,
it almost seems like they're behind the eight ball a little bit, because the bad guys have access to resources, things that they don't normally do.
Yep. Of course, the bad guys always have a lot more goons and stuff show up. And how do you build up the bad guy? Well, have him and his buddy, who's also equally trained, high trained, have them get attacked, by a competing a gangster who basically wants his share because he was promised it by the crypto junior, or a billionaire guy who runs everything. Wants to knock him off because and because he doesn't care. The guy basically, this crypto millionaire, he's a rich guy, a rich asshole. He basically hires these goons out, has them knock over other places for them, and then basically tries to get rid of himself so he's not incriminated. And also, so but the main guy here, he's like fuck this, I'm not gonna deal with this anymore. I want more money, and this guy's already screwed me over. So all he wants is access is the servers, this guy has, because obviously what happens when you have an online website that gets taken down for something illegal, another one pops up because people have the code. So and that's all this guy really cares about, and well, the main basically the crypto billionaire guy pretty much ends up basically screwing him over by promising him, hey, I'll let you out of casinos, I'm gonna move on to something else, and he's like, you better not be fucking with me. He's like, it's like, oh, don't trust me. It's like, the guy comes, another competitor comes to whack him from a local gang. And then after he basically kills all the guys that go his crew with a knife stuff, and he says, like, he's holding a knife. He's like, how about we share? So this leads up to them at the end of the movie where pretty much the millionaire rich kid, the guy thinks he's gonna like pull a gun on him. He's like, and shoot him because the other guy gave him a gun, and it turns out he pulled the firing pin off of there, and yeah, he just pretty much pushes the guy, and the guy gets basically hugged and stabbed multiple times. Yeah. What's up there, Sock God? What's up? Yeah. So, like I said, you're gonna get the bad guys being bad guys, either using axes or machetes or just straight up knives, and this repeatedly stabbing people. You get a little bit of comedy with the recurring characters from the first movie. The guy who's running the arcade, rigging it. And once again, this is the second time he's been an informant undercover. He did it in the third movie, and he left at the end. So they caught up to him in his little Lambo or Ferrari he's driving. And they use him, to help them get the building run casino. But I said, very, very a one and done movie, straightforward, nothing really changing, and it's not a knock on it. I actually enjoy these movies, and honestly, every Hollywood movie that's coming out right now to these days, I watched this, on Tubi, and I got more entertainment than watching any Avengers movies.
Well, there's a couple things to that that's kind of interesting that I'll bring up because you mentioned that. First of all, the one thing that popped me the most in here was the fact that I keep forgetting this every time I see his movies, because Don Lee's movies are the only movies that do this. It's not the punching and all that. It's the fact that when they get an informant or some low key guy off the streets or like that, they basically close the door and let him beat the shit out of him to get information.
It's a helmet.
Kind of turns away.
So they've been doing this since the first movie. Someone's not talking, they put a motorcycle helmet on, and then they just beat the shit out of him while the cameras are turned off or blocked. Cardboard. And he's like, and he does this again. I said that's always a joy.
Yeah. The other thing too about it with Don Lee that is interesting, because we mentioned superhero movies. Obviously, they're extremely big here in the United States. But the one thing that don't like about them is besides the CGI and the horrible writing to me is, well, it's cool if you like comics and all that stuff and you get to see all that stuff on screen. I think that's neat that the technology exists to do that. Exactly. I always liked the movies that were older because it was usually one person, and the movie revolved around the one person. So it was about an individual. Movies? Yeah. Well, no, but if you go back to the 70s, we started off with like Chuck Norris movies in the 80s, Rambo. We did all the action stuff that we've done, with all the other movies. It's about one person and maybe some people that helps them out. But when you have superhero movies, it's always the team. I have to go back and talk with everybody else about what we're going to do and go up against. And the bad guys are now the individuals. So as before, the bad guys were teams, right? You had James Bond going up against Spectre, and you don't know who they were, where they would be at. Now it's totally flipped or whatever. And so when you get Don Lee, it's him in the movie, and the team is there to help him out. They know the role. And so that's the one thing. It's a very comfortable film in that you kind of know what to expect from it.
Yeah. So looking at the other guys, IMDb, for the main bad guy here, so I see if he's actually done any notable movies that I've actually seen, but not much. I know he served in the military until the 14, got out of there. Military.
Don Lee, I think if I remember correctly, we were talking about him. I think he was an arm wrestling guy.
All right, so here's I'm not talking about Don Lee. Don Lee is, like I said, he's been in it's probably his biggest movies, I guess Hollywood would say, which we even know is a flop, was Eternals, for a big cameo. for being
Oh, that's
there.
right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. And of course, Train to
Yeah.
Busan is where I
Yes, Train to
called him
Busan.
Korean Chuck Norris.
Train to Busan is one of those movies where it basically leaves the country and is able to get international fame, especially United States, for how wild and crazy it was. It was everywhere. So when the Peninsula came out, everyone's like, "Well, we don't have like the people that made it great there. Where's Don Lee?" You know, because well, if you watch the first movie,
Yeah.
he didn't make it though.
Yeah.
But like I said, he's such an imposing character. He's kind of like was it Mr. Fuji? For the Chuck Norris movies, the big dude who also played. I think he also played Odd Job. I remember. I think it was something else. Mr.
That's a
Fuji,
Japanese guy.
you know, but I'm
And
saying he has the same build like that, imposing.
right.
You know,
Right.
and you put and now that when you only watch those movies, that stereotype was always used for bad guys. Putting into a good guy situation, wow, does that work? And then I said you added a little bit, added him making him polite. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to hit you. Let me hit you again. You know, it's like it's just a fun movie, entertaining. If you have not watched 1 through first 3, go back and watch those. They're fun. You don't have to watch them in order if you don't want to. They are standalone movies.
Right.
But there's a little bit of a crossover as far as the characters are. The police captain, who basically is always kind of a shy and stuff, and doesn't want to make any waves because he's afraid about losing his job. And then you have Don Lee's character kind of like, oh, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. He's like, what do you mean you're going to take care of it? He goes, and this is the second or third time he's gone over his head, went to like the commissioner, or this time they actually had the commissioner stop in this movie. And he's like, oh, yeah, let me, he gets on his knees. This is like I've never seen a lot of movies. The guy Don Lee gets on his knees in front of everybody there. The whole, like the big head honchos of all the police up there and Seoul. And the meeting, and he basically is like, he gets on his knees, like, please, like, let me finish this in case, I promise, the vet, to find this mother, her son's killer.
Yeah, it's the respecting of the position.
Yeah, and the guy there again, and I'm not sure if the guy is supposed to be like a big, the name is famous celebrity over in Korea or whatever. He brings like, he basically looks down at the other captain, or I guess because the lieutenant is above him. Yeah, that's right. The lieutenant's the one that's always freaking out. The captain is the one that told him, you're off the case. You didn't find anything. And he's like, well, no, go continue the case, And he's like, that's that guy. That's a detective. Sometimes it takes a little longer to catch the bad guys, but because we're behind on crime, but we always do. And it's like, it was like a nod. It's like, it's like, thank you, sir. And he kind of like walks away. So yeah, it was kind of interesting to see that. Because a lot of times you don't get that on Hollywood kind of interactions even in TV shows.
Well, I was trying to think of a similar American movie or franchise to compare it to, where you got your group of people going out and going after the bad guy, but there's a physicality to it. Yeah, and that's a comedy. It's not, even though there's some lighthearted comedy in here, there's a fair amount of physical violence in it. Yeah, there's some blood and stuff like that, and they definitely don't overdo the gun parts, which I appreciate.
So in the third movie, I think it's the last one we watched. The guy they're on the bus, and the dude gets punched through the window or kicks him, like that. The
best scene in the end.
Yeah. So this time they're on an airplane. But before we get to that, let's talk about the bathroom fight scene.
All right, go ahead. Yeah. Because close quarters is always great fighting.
Oh my gosh! So if we starts off, everybody's they're in the elevator. They're going up to this guy's building. They're going over, and the bad guys are around basically Don Lee. And I'm thinking, we're gonna get a Captain America elevator fight scene. What's going on here? And the main bad guy has a knife, drops it on like one of those throwing knives, or the ones that has a handle on it, the dagger. Those are used for shoving real quick. But he doesn't use it. But eventually, the Don Lee and his man, and they go in the bathroom, and then they confront the bad guys, and the bad guys try to take them out. And pretty much, people are getting their being punched. You got the bad guy trying to stab one of the cops, and he literally. And I'm thinking like, oh, he's gonna kill one of the guys. He's calling for his boss. Hey, and I'll help. And then he ends up stabbing the actual the door or the next to the door of the actual the toilet stall. So proving it was a real knife. It wasn't because it's stuck in there, the one he was using. Sometimes they might switch it out because it is because here's the thing, they don't speed up the fight scenes in here.
I think they do a little bit.
You think so? Because
there's some frames where what they'll do is if you move the camera any action of where it's going relative, like say, like if I'm going from left to right and the knife's going from left to right, well, since they're both getting closer to having no difference in speed between them, it looks slower. So I've noticed the way they sometimes do the camera where they swoop up or around and all that to get a different perspective. Sometimes it feels like they do it, and in that moment, I feel like it's not as blatant as like early James Bond like car crash scenes or whatever like that. We go, oh, this is horrible, right?
They zoom out.
Yeah, there's way they maximize it. Let's just say that because they do go at a good speed. I think real life could be faster. But there's definitely a like a dance routine to it where it has a pattern to it the way it follows.
It's all choreography. It's all fight choreography. Yeah, so it's all predetermined stuff. But it comes out realistic. So the knife goes into the side panel or the stall thing, metal thing. But then he kicks the guy out, and then there's this whole. Meanwhile, Don Lee, aka Korean Chuck Norris, this guy, two other guys fighting against him, punches one guy. The other guy thinks he's gonna take advantage of him, hit him, and he basically throws him into the mirror above the sink, and you just see it smash. The guy falls down. It's like, oh, it's gotta hurt, man. And it's just. Yeah, I said I love the close quarters fight scenes like that, But and then we get another fight scene on the plane at the end here with the main bad guy and his right hand man, and they're fighting in there, and it's main for the most part. It's the right hand man of the main bad guy who's basically fighting against Don Lee, and then he ends up getting punched. He gets a super punch, Hadouken, or what do you call it? And the guy flies back with the wire, But then at the end, you see the bad guy. He's kind of thinks he's gonna fight against him, And they're on the plane, and pretty much he ends up getting knocked down, and he's laying there. You see his picture of his bloody face. He's laughing, he's smiling. He's like he's laying out. So what does he do? But he does a psycho knee. He runs up and then knees him, and he hits the guy's head, and you hear a snap. Meaning, if he's not dead, oh my gosh. But he pretty much knees him on the guy's ground, and then the guy's instantly down on the ground. And
there's one brief fight on where he's trying to picture him in my mind. There's some fighting going back and forth and some punching and turning around and all that. This guy comes on screen, I punch him, and I go back to the guy I was just interfacing with. But you always get towards the end of a battle where and sometimes they just do it with a punch, right? Like he'll just punch somebody early on, like he did with the kids in the last movie. But they use this physicality and show it to you on a screen where like one guy goes at him and he just kind of like shoulder blocks him in midair and throws him through something in the air and collides him. And I'm like, I want to see somebody that's strong and powerful do something physical rather than just like a punch, like he's got a lot of weight behind it, right? A skinny guy, a boxer, they can hit you really, really hard, but they don't look physically imposing, but they can tag to shell you. But if guys look big and broad, I want to see him manhandle you a little bit. So sometimes we get a little bit of that roughnecking in here too, which is the honestly, that's the attraction of it to me, besides the fact that he doesn't smile and he's a big guy. He's not a beautiful looking 150-pound soaking wet American pretty boy, right? I do like that. So I give a lot of these guys credit here because, again, we've talked about the downfall slightly, at least from what we're used to with the 80s, to 90s Hong Kong action films, even the Girls with Guns, to going, okay, the Roundup is a nice series that kind of satisfies us a little bit while we're looking for other ones to review.
So it turns out they've also been in a movie together too before this, the main bad guy, The Gangster, the Cop, and the Devil from 2019.
Which we have not reviewed.
No, we're not reviewed yet. I was trying to see what the height of this guy's height is, the main bad guy, because he's not too tall.
I'm going to guess 5'8", 5'9". I mean, because they're always going to lie. If you tell you he's 6 foot, I'm not believing it.
He's 6 feet.
Not buying it. Not buying it at all.
And then what is Don Lee?
Don Lee's a stout 5'10", I'd say. He's probably pushing close to 200. He's a big, wide body. I don't know if he ever lifted, because like when we talk about Jean-Claude Van Damme, 5'9", maybe
5'10",
190. Yep, I can buy 5'10".
Yeah. Well, I mean, the other guy is about the same height as him. He is, so I imagine probably around there, like 5'10". Yeah.
Yeah. And you can wear lifts and you can hide it and all that stuff and framing and all that matters. And because everybody's relatively close to that height, you don't really pay attention to it. You look at like the size of them or how lean or how
Sure.
cut they are,
Sure, and then plus, these guys, when you can't remember something, the camera angles makes people look taller than they are. They did that. Well, a lot of people don't know this. It's like, I mean, maybe they do. If you watch Supernatural, there's a guy who plays Castiel on there, Sasa Mitchell. He's only like 5'6", 5'7", but he's hanging out with guys who play Sam and Dean, Winchester, who are
The
like
one dude's like 6'4", 6'5", legit.
yeah, like 6'2". Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Dean's the guy, Jensen Ackles, like 6'2", and the other one's like 6'4". That's guy who played Jared Padalecki, played St. Sam. So whenever they have scenes with him, Castiel and the brothers, the guy who plays Castiel is standing on a box.
Yep.
So you can't see it, but there's a box all cut off. So I said I never would have known that unless I read that, because it
Well, you're not looking for it, right?
No, I'm not looking for people's feet.
Yeah, it's believable, and you give into that when you're starting to watch the movie. It sets the tone and all that. I
can believe like the guys about 6'2", because there are not everyone's like in Asia is like 4'3". They're all like super short or 5 foot or but
well, they always round it up is the point.
Well, it's called the roundup.
I no pun intended. Well, like for example, Bolo Young. We've talked about him with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
5'9" or 5'7".
He was like 5'7", 5'8". Maybe at his peak he was 5'9", but he's close to like 190, 200 pounds, and he's a bodybuilder. And he's got a wide frame. He's not a thin frame kind of long-limbed individual. So when you see him on screen, he just pops at you because relative to the other guys around him, you're like, man, this guy's fucking gigantic. Yep. And Jackie Chan was never more than 5'10". He's probably a good 5'9", maybe 160, let's say. But the movie that we just did of his, was it Snake in Shadows Den or whatever it was called? That's probably the fittest I thought he looked. The most swole.
Oh yeah.
Right. But he just looked physically good. But relative to everybody on there, he was the athlete. So it's nice because with Donnie, they're not gonna. You know what they haven't done yet in the Roundup movie that I can remember? They need to have him doing an action scene in a wife beater or just with his shirt off. Because that's the only thing we haven't seen.
Yep.
Let's be real.
So it says, according to the box office thing, his film was released on April 24, 2004 on 2,900 plus scenes. Opening day, the film finished in first place at South Korean box office with 821,631 admissions, gross of basically 4,911,300. No, Yeah, right. Yeah, so almost 5 million. Breaking their highest opening for a release for a film released in 2004 in South Korea, initially surpassing the opening roundup, which had over 460,000 basically people the butts up, and then 740,000 for the sequel, which is No Way Out. So basically, it's a record high new opening in the history of the Roundup film series. It's also among the top 4 openings of Korean films of all time. So. That's pretty cool. But then again, I don't know how many movies, like the popular movies they have in Korea, but the fact that this movie has been coming over to like America and getting popular is really a good thing. But it says as of July, the film has grossed over almost $80,000, making it the second highest grossing film among South Korean films in 2004. And then the film basically grossed around 83 million. Worldwide box office mojo, and I can't see any bad negatives on. I'm looking through critical responses. I
just look. He's not somebody I would say that pops off the screen. You go, oh, that's an actor.
Well,
but he's a presence, right? I mean, he's like a Charles Bronson. He's like somebody you go, oh, I just kind of want you get used to seeing him. He's a little bit different than the other Asian types that are around him. You go, that's the guy. I don't know who he is, what he does, but I want to see him do something.
That's the thing. Don Lee has become what we wanted with Tom Cruise and a lot of action stars. If he's making another movie, I'm gonna go watch it because he's entertaining. Now, as long as he's the main star. Now, if it's something where he's just kind of like going to Hollywood stuff, I really don't care for it because a lot of times it's not that great of a movie, and he's got a small part or all. But I am curious. So if he's actually doing his own English dubs in these, probably not. But then again, he spoke English in the Eternals. So it's. I always wonder if it's him as actually his voice in these dubs for these movies.
I don't
Uh,
think so. Usually that's a different crew because you can pay them a lot cheaper.
sure. But for overall though, I said like this is the guy I'm gonna if he's got a movie coming out and he's the main star, I'm gonna watch it. Especially the Roundup. You could do about 20 Roundup movies, make it like Mission Impossible if you want to. I'd still watch it because not because there's such a low bar in entertainment nowadays movies, but the fact that you know what you're going into. Like we said at the very beginning here, if you enjoy the Roundup and you enjoyed the sequel, and you're like, well, the third one couldn't be that great. The third one was great too. So far, they have not had a dud movie for any of the Roundups, and I just hope they continue doing these. I'm guessing he's probably in his 50s.
He's mid-50s. He's
Mid
about
50s.
my age. Yeah.
The main bad guy was like 43.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as long as he can keep doing it, you know what? And here's the thing: he's not physically overexhausted. He's already at the point. He's like, fucking hate this. He's like the Murtaugh, like yeah. And he doesn't. Yeah. So, like I said, this subtle humor in there, more situational humor, straight up cop movies. That's what this is, and it's not all drama, boring. There's a little bit of excitement here. The one we reviewed was called Big City. Very heavily drama, not much entertaining. It was gung fu, which I do. Like I said, if it had been a little bit more quirky, a little more main guy we could focus on, like this guy, it probably would have been more entertaining. But the fact that it didn't, it's why it was kind of dull to us. But say Don Lee has that personality where you just want to say like he's gonna say something and he's gonna apologize. Like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hit you. And it's like, I hit you again, and I laughed when he pulled out the helmet again. It's like, it's been a running gag where he's like, oh, we got interrogate a guy.
Yeah.
All right.
With the helmet on.
Put the cardboard up in front of the thing, the camera. He's like, wait, what? No, and they just like you start like, oh, you don't want to talk? Especially my favorite scene in this whole entire movie, the comedy bits goes, as where they're interrogating one of the bad guys who was running a casino, and basically they bring him into the van. He's handcuffed. He's like, you see that guy out there, the long hair? That guy's a serial killer. He's like, if you don't tell me what he's like, he wants to come in here. He wants a piece of you. And he's just standing there breathing. It's the guy who runs the arcade in the first movie. The guy, he's kind of a nitwit, but he has the long hair. But you see him breathing he's just standing there staring at the guy, deadpan, breathing. And the guy probably has no idea what's going on, And it just used that situation. The guy, he's like, see this? He's like, yeah. He's like, he wants to take more than that. It's like, and the guy, like the criminal is scared at this point, because he's just a guy. He's a middle management guy. He doesn't realize that as he goes to point him, he's Don Lee's fingers back up to where it was. Like I said, I just kind of love the situation humor. The action's pretty good. Music is nothing like real fancy, but it helps build up some of the moments. Let's start.
Yeah, and I think we've been seeing a little bit more of a trend in American movies for sure for a while now that it's now, I think, creeping over everywhere because of technology. But I did notice that even though it was set like in Seoul, but a big chunk of it's in the Philippines, they did film there as well. That when story-wise, when they say, where did that come from? The Philippines. And then they show like a car on an expressway, and then all of a sudden you see kind of like the really dirty, unkempt part on the sides of the road or whatever.
Miami Vice.
Well, kind of like where they're having kind of like well. I remember that's where they had that's where the middle bad guy had his setup, right?
Mm-hmm.
In a building you wouldn't even pay attention to.
A gas station,
road, right? Yeah, and all that. So you're like, but the establishing shots and all that's kind of cool because we get to see what other places around the world look like, and it doesn't have to be like Big Ben or the Eiffel Tower or something. It could just be something over there. And unless you know something and you're not in a major city, it's kind of cool to see that, right? I mean, that's one of the things I like about his films too. They're always, a lot of them half the time they're outside, physically going somewhere, doing something, beating people up outside. Not the CGI stuff and set pieces.
No. Transport, same thing, and they'd show you like, where it's France, where he's at. Or if it's down Miami, you're gonna see a lot of Miami stuff. Yeah. Miami Vice did this whenever they had a bad guy. It'd be like this abandoned hotel that or apartment slums, low income. All the people are squatting there. It's a condemned building. They use that like multiple times throughout the series, which I loved. So yeah, I do like this, especially was it the last movie before this, they went to Korea, or not, yeah, they left to Korea and they went to Philippines.
Philippines.
So and he had investigated a murder there, and that was a guy with 3 guys that were just based with a hatchet and just kill people. So I said I love the fact that they are I agree with you. They're going outside, they're seeing different places, but I also love it when they bring back like the arcade thing. It's the same arcade from the first movie. It might be they say it's in a different location, or it might be the same location. But he always got the guy who's like, "Hey, boss, you're back." And he's like, "I want you to rig these." It's like, well, it's set for 8,000. It's like, set it for 7,000. But then Don Lee comes in, punches it. He's like, "Oh, let me reset it for you." And it's like, no, it's fine. He's like, rigged. He punched it. It goes up to nearly almost 100,000, or 10,000 or something like that. He's like, holy! I was like, oh, dude. He's like, I see you didn't rig it. And the guy's like, he did rig it.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, my final thoughts on the film is I agree with you. It's definitely it's definitely a franchise worth seeking out, and just getting a different vibe on it. Not every movie's not going to be the same as far as what you like in your taste. So I like the physicality that Dong Lee brings into the role. I like the fact that he's the main guy and he has his team around them. I could really care less about most of the other stuff in there. I don't have to see half-naked women run around. While I like that, it's not necessary for what they do. If it wasn't for sometimes the seriousness of his tone and some of the violence, even though I wouldn't say they're bloody, there's blood in them, but they're not bloody like that. They're not gory and graphic. I could almost sit there and say it's if you're a young guy watching it, it would be kind of cool, but not offensive. You're like, man, this guy's a badass, right? And all that. But they do a great job of framing the bad guys as being enough of a threat where Don Lee has to be basically quote unquote the superhero that his team needs. And it's like they don't overdo it with him either. You get a little bit in the beginning, 1 or 2 things, everything happens, and then you get the big fight with him at the end. That's all I want. That's all I care about. Take my money, Don Lee.
Yeah, one German based magazine or writer article wrote about saying he said it draws parallels to John Wick franchise, in which he emphasized that although the films could keep up in terms of action, John Wick was a much more subversive story. The ROUNDUP dramaturgy was only located in the thrill of the final battle. He praised the film for its craft, but he added that the series is treading water. And that's one of the negative views, but don't really see a lot of the John Wick stuff, unless you're saying like the hand-to-hand combat, sure, but one thing has over John Wick, we're not relying on gun fu.
Yeah, I don't want to rely on that. Yeah, it can be great in the scene and the snap. At the end of the day, I'm numb to it. There's the intimate nature of physical violence, one-on-one punching people, kicking, and even with knives and all that. There's just something. There's something unique about it that the gun, no matter how great a gun scene can be, it doesn't come close to me.
But one of the things I said I would praise for John Wick. I don't want to shit on the movie, but is that you get the hero, he's injured at the end, and he's pretty much up against immense odds, and still manages to get out. But it's you don't know if he's going to survive at the end, because they kind of leave you on a cliffhanger. He's already been shot or stabbed, but he's going to do this, to keep his word. I do like that about the John Wick stuff, but overall, I said we don't need guns in this. They bring up. There's usually like one person has a gun.
Yeah,
and that usually gets smacked out of their face, and they don't get to use it, or it's used on them. So that's the only thing I like about them giving these the guns, is that it's limited. But we said hand-to-hand combat, a lot of knives, and just people getting hit with either bins or crates or barrels or garbage cans or something like that, tossed at their head, or getting knocked over things, head slammed against desks, or thrown against walls, stuff. Like I said, at the end here, John Lee, they're in the run up. I'm like, is he gonna punch him? No, he runs up and then knees him real hard, and they hear the crack.
Yeah.
I'm like, ooh, like he's not walking away from this ever, So yeah, I was like, damn. Because it's one thing American Hollywood cinema does. It's like it started with a lot of the action movies. John McClane, you got the Lethal Weapon. It's that the action hero guy at the end is pretty much gone through, and he's like exhausted, and he has one last fight, and he usually has a quip at the end, and he's pretty much like injured. Like that's been one of the run-of-the-mill things.
Yeah.
Which isn't really a knock on it, but it is very cookie cutter. So when people say,
you get tired of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't do it. You're never going to be able to have a guy running around a warehouse with no shoes on for the whole entire movie,
And a wife beater.
and couldn't even take anybody's shoes because they're the wrong size. But they make a joke about it in that movie about Die Hard.
Mm-hmm.
But he's crawling around through the vents. It's like you're never going to see that again. Anybody crawling through vents, because when people crawl vents on comic shows, they always fall through.
Yeah,
yeah.
Or they shoot in front of them or behind them, and you're like, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern, live here on the Extreme Movie Show, I will be with the young 20-something Professor Pixel, also reviewing a show that's new for us, but maybe not new for some of our old-time listeners here on the Extreme Movie Show, and that is Columbo. We're on Season 4, Episode 5. I believe it's the next last episode in the season. We normally don't give the steep in seasons, but we love Columbo, and the strength of the writing has been a very positive reason for us to continue that, plus the amount of people that have been interested in it. Keep letting us know that. We will again be live 9 p.m. Eastern for that, so check that out. You can watch it on Peacock Live, or maybe some of you even own it. Fantastic episode coming up. Going to be a lot of fun talking about it with the young 20-something Professor Pixel. And then you and I will be live Sunday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, RDB, to continue our Season 1 review of Miami Vice. This is Episode 5 as well, I believe. That would be this Part 2 of Calderon's Return. Miami Vice, phenomenal show. I'm glad that you and I are finally reviewing it.
Yeah, excitement about this. This is Episode 5.
Yes.
We will be doing Calderon's Demise, Part 2. And if you're not familiar with the show and maybe you're going to check it out, now you're able to watch it. It's back on Tubi, all 5 seasons.
Is it?
Yeah.
Good.
I popped today. I was looking at this movie. I was like, wait, Miami Vice is back? Heck yeah. I have the box set here, which I always have been watching everything on to this. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, Tubi does not edit anything. Tubi has the original music, everything on there, and it has autoplay and stuff. I binged through 2 seasons within like a couple nights. Because
that's a perfect show for vibing. Oh, it's so perfect.
Oh, it is. And I said, one of the downsides when I gotta pop a disc in, pull the disc out. I'm like, Peter, just to watch the show, but and look at the HD print. But I noticed though, if I watch it on Tubi, I get this. It's the same quality as you get there.
Yes. And very little, if any, commercials with it as well. It's beautiful. Love it.
So right. So you guys know the drill. Leave a comment down below after the stream's over. Let us know what you thought of this film. Do you agree with us, or do you think it's gonna bad, or is there something that we forgot to mention? Put it down in the comment section. We do respond to all comments. We do appreciate them too as well. And click like, subscribe if you want more. And we'll see you guys tomorrow night around 9 p.m. Eastern for Columbo, Season 4, Episode 5, I believe. Yeah.
Have a good night, everybody.
Hey, Johnny. Hey, sorry for being late. I'll rewatch. Hey, no problem. Thanks for being here. And thank you to Sloth God and anybody else who was not commenting but lurking. We appreciate you guys. Good night, guys and gals and dogs and cats and everything else that's watching.